Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. And today we're going to talk about the Demon 170 prices because things have gotten to be pretty stupid out there. If you've been watching Butter the Insider's channel or his Instagram at Butter the Great or TK going over a bunch of these dealer asking prices and seeing these dealers asking $250,000, $300,000, $400,000 for Demon 170s, I can't help but to stop and think there's a bunch of people doing drugs at these dealerships. They are literally high if they think they can get $400,000 for a Dodge. If they believe, which I believe they do, in all their strange group superiority complex mental deficiencies that they're muscling through at these dealers where they believe they live on a completely separate planet than the rest of us, I'm convinced that they actually believe that they're going to come within striking distance of those prices. Now, I did call some of those dealers who are asking $300,000, $400,000, and they rapidly did come off the price, check this out, by $100,000. Now, if you check out Butter's Instagram page, he posted one where the dealership actually made up a price. I'll see if I can put on the screen. Made up a price and then discounted their made up price to a still wildly ridiculous price. Thinking that someone is going to be, this is the arrogance, thinking that someone is going to be so incredibly stupid that they're going to go, wow, they discounted the price on their 170 to $300,000 or $200,000. I'm going to buy it now. They literally believe that there are people out there that stupid. Let me be clear. If you are that person, if you are sitting there with so much disposable wealth that you can go drop $400,000 on a Dodge Challenger, good for you. More power to you. And look, I'm not going to call you stupid. I'm just going to say, maybe you hit the lottery and money doesn't matter. You wipe your butt with $100 bills because you can. But the rest of us in the world, and the vast majority of people, even some of the most wealthy people I've ever met, don't just piss away their money and throw it out the window. They're extremely shrewd. That's how they got there. Unless it was inherited or handed to them, money not earned, money found, then yes, I understand that those people exist. And I also understand, and I'm very clear, that some of these dealerships expect that maybe those people exist in their neighborhood and will parachute into their dealership with a suitcase full of $100 bills and pay $300,000 for a Dodge. While dealers, many dealers that I've found, have not only sold that car for $50,000 over all day long, but in some cases, the early dealerships, the most reputable dealerships, the ones with only one or two allocations at the beginning, who take good care of their customers, sold their cars at MSRP. Bottom line is, these cars are not worth $300,000 or $400,000. But it's not me whining that, oh, I can't afford a $400,000 car. That's nothing to do with it. This has to do with the fact that there is going to be so many people who bought these cars that are burning cash. I don't want to talk about just some rumors out there that there's close to, let's just say as of a few weeks ago or maybe sometime in December, there was somewhere around 1,000 plus Demon 170s that had yet to have been delivered that were going to be delivered in first quarter, in which we are in right now. And over the next 2 months, these cars will be getting delivered, and probably into part of second quarter, they'll be getting delivered into people's hands. My question is how many of those cars were dealer allocations where the dealerships ordered the car under one of their salespeople's names or their GM's names, and that's not really customers waiting to get those cars, meaning there is now going to be a glut of cars on the market, overpriced and sitting and not selling. Well, I think it's a bigger percentage than we could probably imagine. Next, how many of those cars were bought at MSRP for reals, like actually at MSRP, or slightly over, let's say 25 to 50,000 over, and there's speculators planning to turn and flip those cars? Well, I'm going to assume that between the dealerships and the flippers, that probably, just guessing, but half or more than half of those cars are not intended to go into a buyer's hand who plans to keep those cars, meaning that for the first time since 2018, we're going to have a completely separate situation than what we had with the original 2018 Demon, where we have way more flippers, way more people, way more dealers hoarding these cars and then flipping them onto the market at ridiculous prices, forcing a buildup of inventory. So what I'm here to talk about is how expensive it's going to be for you to drive your car, your Demon 170. Understanding my situation, I absolutely am aware of this and know that every mile that I drive on that car costs me probably $20, maybe even more. So it costs a Demon 170 owner probably around $20 to drive their car. So between 0 and 1,000 miles, I would say every single mile that you put on that car that takes you further away from delivery miles takes that car down by $20 a mile, meaning that you will lose $20,000 before you make it to 1,000 miles. And that is from the plateaued baseline of what the lowest priced cars are actually selling for, not what Mecum Auctions or Barrett Jackson has got for the cars, but more what real world pricing is on those cars, what they're selling for, not what they're listed for. Because if you go look at what they're listed for on eBay, I'll show you right now. Let's pop this up on the screen. Here on eBay, you're looking at some pretty astronomical prices. Now, they start off in these 150 range, and then they wait and push to see what kind of offers they can get. Many of them have put these up at already really high prices. But look at all these 170s for sale, and this is just eBay. This has very little to do with what's actually at dealerships. This is a secondary dealership, used car dealership, and this is I would say very few of these. Well, that's Blue Star Motor Group, so this is a flipper. This is a secondary dealership. And here, $278,000. You can buy it now for $278,000. 14 people are watching, but they're just watching. So why isn't it selling? $255,000, not sold. Theoretically, the way the hype is around these cars, you would think every single one of these things would be gone, would be bid up and gone so quickly, but they're not. And they keep getting renewed on eBay. And if you keep going through here, it just keeps going. These people that are trying to squeeze 200, 250 out of these cars, and I know that many dealers were very happy to be selling them for 50 over, and the greediest dealers are asking hundreds of thousands of dollars over. So in between, let's just say that 175 to 180 is probably the realistic price. I saw one at Cars and Bids that seemed to plateau. I haven't checked it recently, but plateaued around, I think it was 173, and it kind of stalled, and nobody was going higher than that. So if it did, then I missed that. But I would say probably the realistic price for these things is somewhere around that 170 to 180 range as a plateau. So if you do the math, if you really believe that the cars are worth $200,000 plus, then the only ones that would be worth $200,000 plus would be the ones that have very few miles, 15 miles. This one, 50 miles, that one might even be a challenge to sell with 50 miles. 14 miles. I saw a guy on the Demon forum say, does anybody know how I can get a car with 0 miles? Like they put it on the like what Go Jacket over to the shipping truck and then get it here. Is there any way to get that? And everybody's like, dude, like, no, there's not a way to get that. Like, you might get them with 10, 11 miles. That's how they are. 76 miles means it's been driven. 10 miles, 19 miles, 1 mile. There's one. I don't know how that even happened. And I don't believe that that's even true. But if it is, so be it. 225, 10 miles, 15 miles. These are all low miles. Then you got this guy with 300 miles that's going to be fighting to get his price, because why would somebody want one with 300 miles if you can get one with 12 miles for less money? So these are all asking prices, pie in the sky, dreamland, hoping it's going to happen, but they're not happening. I think the only way to get these prices is either to catch a bunch of people at one of the auctions after they drank a lot and really milk the living daylights out of them for a ridiculous price, which we have absolutely seen happen. But remember the guy that was selling the 4 or 5 cars for like 1.2 or 1.3 million? He's still not going anywhere fast and asking $1 million for all these cars. So bottom line is all these cars continue to sit on the market, and I had to go and do a little bit of research to kind of see, well, then what's it going to cost? Let's just say the plateau is 180, and if you're lucky, really lucky, you might break 200. The only way to do that is if you have almost no miles on the car. The car is just absolutely untouched by human hands, and they might get $100,000 over MSRP, which would put them into the 230, 240 range. But then you've got all these other cars that are going to start hitting the market, sitting on dealership floors. So now you have a supply issue, more supply, and I don't want to say less demand. I think the demand is there, but the affordability or the people willing to pay $100,000 over is starting to go away at this point because the car is not usable for anything other than the racetrack. Read my lips, even though you can't see them, that if you buy this car and think it's going to be like your Hellcat Red Eye jailbreak and you're going to be able to drive it to work every day, you're not. The first time it rains, you're going to be a boat sliding down the road into a solid object, and you're going to get 8 to 9 miles to the gallon, especially if you do ethanol, no matter what you do with that car. So it's a race car, it's a collector's car. That's the two things that it's good for. But if you do want to drive that thing around on the street and want to go ahead and use it as a regular daily driver, that's okay. You can do that, but just know it's probably going to cost you a lot of money. But how can we figure out what it will cost? Well, as people put miles, because so many of these have not been used by anyone yet, and they're all sitting there with low miles. Well, let's go to Car Gurus and take a look at the 2018 Demon, which some speculators believe that the 2018 Demons are going to be worth more than the 2023 Demons. I don't know that that would be the case, other than the fact that people who buy the 2018 Demon will get a crate, and if they have the crate, you will get more money for it. And if you have the crate, then you can simply make the car much more usable on the street, and then take the crate and use the tires and everything else in there to make it prepared for the track. So that car is much more reasonable to go ahead and drive around on the street versus driving a Demon 170 around the street. So I don't know what would make this one worth more money, but I think that at the very least, these things will probably settle in to being pretty equal, where the Demon 170, because it's the last year, that it might garner, I don't know, maybe a 10% bump, maybe a 15% bump in price, and it's going to come down to simple preference. Again, unless you're planning to race the car. If you're planning to race the car, then you have no desire to actually have that car hold its value for you, and you're actually going to use it, which kudos to you. So let's check out the 2018 Demons. Dealers, many dealers out there I've found, had kept the cars, bought them, the owners bought them, and are sitting on those cars, waiting for those cars to pull the big giant prices, and they have no miles. These cars have nothing but delivery miles. So at 225, 250, 229, 229, 222, and all these $200,000 cars, you notice there is no miles listed, which would usually be right here. So you come up here and you've got a 2008, they're all 2018 obviously Demons, but come up here and look for mileage. These are all new cars that were either bought by dealers or bought by speculators, and they're sitting there. But these are not sold, and many have been on the Car Gurus for a very long time, up for sale for a very long time, and they're not selling for these $200,000 crazy prices, especially when you can go buy a Demon 170 for the same price. I'm thinking, well, unless you really just want to match VINs with your car and they have your VIN matched car, you're probably not looking to drop $220,000 on a 2018 Demon just because it has low miles. But let's go and move forward and start looking at some with some miles. These are all pretty low. Here, now you start getting into 549 miles, 200,000. Why would you buy that when you can get a brand new one for in the twos? But you can see the prices start to fall. 262 miles, 199. Let's see what happens here. 220 miles, 199. A few more no-mile cars for 194, 195. So that pretty much screams out that all those over $200,000 2018 Demons are overpriced. So that's probably That's not even the baseline. We can come down here and start looking at some with miles. 189 at 1,671 miles, 111 miles, 189. These are pie in the sky. They're not going to get those prices for those cars because I know that there's plenty out there with much less miles for much less money. But these people are holding out and hoping against hope. So 1,940 miles, 188. But watch what happens as we get lower. So 1,900 miles, 2,800 miles, 183. So every mile that gets put on these cars starts to affect value significantly. And I would say they're front loaded. So you're probably looking at about $20 per mile up to the first 1,000 miles. After that, it probably drops to $10 per mile to about 5,000 or 6,000 miles. And after that, you probably land at around $5 to $7 a mile in depreciation on these cars based on what happened with these 2018s, and just assuming that it's the proportionate amount of reduction in price. So certainly probably getting more money, but the same amount of drop, same percentage of drop. So now with 547, 169, 3,000 miles, 169, but watch how far it drops when you start getting close to 1,000 miles, 165, 913 miles, 164, but it gets worse, folks. So 3,000, almost 2,600 miles, 160, 11,000 miles, 159, 69.45. So miles matter. Miles are going to matter in a huge way when you start looking at the lower price ranges. So now let's just go down to, you want to buy one of these 2018 Demons, you're going to be paying, look at that, 7,000 miles, 149. So if you accept the 200 plus range price, that means there's 50 plus 60, maybe even $70,000 price difference from a delivery mile car and a car with, let's say, 7,000 miles, 6,000 miles. Here's one with 800 miles for 149. So it's probably even worse than that. So let's say 180 is the baseline. 180 with no miles, delivery miles. You're looking at 149 for an 800-mile car, so a few more miles, boom, this is what happens if you decide to take it out of your garage, you're going to get cleaned out. Another 2018, 3,200 miles, 147. So we keep going, and I just get very interested in seeing what happens when you start coming down, and let's just look at 5,600 miles, what the bottom prices are. Well, now you start to land in this 129 to 125 range. And that's pretty much what happens when you drive your car. 4,000 miles, 3,900 miles. So the best way to look at this is to hit rock bottom, to find out what the bottom is on your Demon 170. You probably need to put between 4,000 and 5,000 miles on that car. And at that point, you're going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel. Let's just say if the 2018 Demon is right around that 125 range, here's one with 12,000 miles, 12,000 miles. Here's another one, 5,000 miles, 18,000 miles, 28,000 miles. And you want to drive your Demon 170. Somewhere between 5 and 10,000 miles, there's one for 114. And, this one could be wrecked. I mean, you can go look at them and find out what the Carfax is. 0 accidents reported, 2 owners, clean title. So 114, I mean, tell me it's not expensive to drive these things. It's not expensive in terms of gas and maintenance. I mean, that's just par for the course what you're going to do with this thing, tires and stuff like that. But what you're going to pay for per mile that you're using that car. So you got to look at it like this. If you are, let me get back on camera here. If you plan to drive your Demon 170, you need to understand and be totally cool with it, which a lot of people are, but actually few people are. I'm in the forums. I watch the Demon 170s group, and these folks are talking about how much their cars are worth, they're going to be worth, and how the more you pay for that car, the better it helps keep these values up. Well, I will tell you right now that every single mile you put on that car from delivery is costing you probably between $20 and $30 per mile right out of the gate. And the reality of it is it could be worse than that. It could approach $50 per mile as more cars come on the market. So if you think about it like this, if there is a flood of, let's say, 500 dealer and flipper cars hit the market in this next 3-4 months, you're going to be looking at probably $50 a mile, because the only cars that are going to be highly sought after are going to be the super, super low mile cars, meaning delivery mile cars. But there's going to be so many of them because dealers got these cars. This wasn't happening as badly in 2018, while it certainly happened, and we know, a lot of us know exactly what dealers did this. It wasn't as prolific as it is today, with dealers that signed the document saying they were buying it at MSRP and used an employee in the dealership to get those allocations, and now they've got a whole bunch of these things and more coming, and they're trying to gross these huge prices. One dealer told me recently, he said there is a very short window for Demon 170 owners to get paid a good price for their cars. Right now, if you are lucky, you might get that 180, 190 range if you're the first owner and you put miles on those cars. So keep that in mind. If you are a speculator, you are one of very, very many, and there's so many out there. Do I have a problem with them? I don't have any problem with these people. You do whatever you want with your car. I believe that's very different than dealers. Somebody did comment and said, well, you also got to account for these flippers. I don't care about these flippers. A lot of these flippers paid $150 and they're trying to get $180. Whatever it is, they got the car fair and square. Once the thing gets in the consumer's hands, the consumer is much less in control of the inventory as the dealers are, and much less manipulative. The dealers have these $20 million dealerships with highly trained salespeople to sit, lie, cheat, and manipulate you into paying too much money for a car, and then send you out, and then you find out that you just way overpaid. Or if you are buying a car from somebody on eBay, you've already seen all the other cars on eBay, and you've already done your research, and if you make that decision, that's on you. That is one man against another man, not one man against a gigantic business. One man against another man negotiating, I can deal with that. I dealt with that. I believe that's the way it was before all the craziness in this market took place, where the dealers became hoarding of the inventory. And what's taking place now is we just got to know, the more dealerships that have these Demon 170s on their lots and that are showing up are going to hold those prices in weird places and cause there to be more inventory on the market. More inventory in the market does not help pricing, it hurts pricing. So the dealers will find themselves in positions of either having to hold those cars in storage for many years and hope that the market comes back, or they're going to have to start adjusting prices to move those cars a lot faster. So hope this was helpful to all of you and anybody out there who's thinking of buying one of these things or speculating with your own. It's going to cost you a lot of money to drive that car. Just know every single time you leave your house, you're probably popping, every month that goes by, somewhere between $20 and $50 a mile as you get to the first 1,000 miles. And after that, it won't be as bad, but it's still going to probably be between, let's say, $10, $15 a mile. And then once you get to the higher mileage, once you get to the 6,000, 7,000 miles, you'll start to land at a place of that 140, 150 price range, maybe 135. You do a ton of miles and rag the car out real bad. That just is going to be what it is. And you can argue with me, you can debate me, do it respectfully in the comments, but I just think there's just too many of these things on the market, just like there's too many 2018s on the market. Look at how many of them there are. There is no shortage of 2018s. There's no massive supply and demand issue. There's so many 2018 Demons for sale that if you want one, you can go get one in the 120 range and probably lowball them and probably get them to take the offer. And that's, I think, where we're going to be headed. I think there's no way around it. Probably a little bit better pricing than the 2018, because who doesn't want the newest, coolest thing? But no matter how you cut it, over time, the natural pricing will come to effect, and we will all find out that if you had a car with 5 miles on it and you wanted to dump it for 160, 170, 180,000, you've got a very small and very short window to be able to do that. And if not, you should plan to keep it or plan to drive it at least and enjoy the hell out of it and put miles on it, but know that you are going to take that depreciation so badly based on the current market conditions that are going on right now and the amount of these cars that are not being driven, that are being held at low miles by speculators or by dealerships or by flippers. So hopefully this was interesting. Hopefully this was helpful to you all. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.